Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vegan Health and Fitness YouTube show and podcast. I'm Carey, aka Brenda Carey, the founder of this brand and host of this shindig. Today I have a sidekick. This is Buttercup. She's my constant companion and wanted very much to be here with you guys today. So I am letting her. So anyway, I've got a good one for you today. We've got this amazing, inspirational fitness powerhouse, Samantha Shorkey. But before we dive in, I want to thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please don't forget to do so. It helps us get the word out and get past those pesky little algorithms. Also, if you like what you hear today, please don't forget to hit the like button because that also helps us. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, a good review would help us as well. So we appreciate all of those things that you do to support us. So without any further ado, let me just tell you who we've got for you today. If you're a fan of Vegan Health and Fitness magazine, you've probably seen Samantha Shorkey in quite a few issues. She was the first ever vegan World Naturals Bikini Pro. She's known for having a fantastic caboose, so we're definitely going to get to that. And we're going to do a little workout with her later, so you want to stick around till the end of the podcast. You don't want to miss out on that. She's also an online vegan coach. She's author of the Vegan Bodybuilder's Cookbook. She's creator of the blog and podcast Jacked on the Beanstalk, which she co-hosts with her sister. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you're missing out because that is a very entertaining podcast. Her motto is, "I don't preach, I inspire." And I love that. Sam has been providing customized online vegan coaching programs to vegans all over the world since 2012. And if you know anything about hiring a coach, you know you need to have something customized. And when people just send you things that are pre-made, you never get quite as good of a deal as you do when things are tailored to you and your specific needs. That's something that she has inspired me, and I do the same thing when I coach. So thanks, Samantha, for showing us the right way to do coaching. Anyway, she works on a number of clients, from vegan bikini competitors, of course, since that's what she's been known for, and vegan bodybuilders to vegan brides-to-be, and even people who are just veg curious. Her biggest vegan transformation success story was a meat eater who she turned into a vegan bodybuilder, and she won bodybuilding.com's $200,000 12-week transformation challenge in 2015, beating out 345,000 contestants worldwide. So that's a pretty impressive feat, and we can't wait to learn more about the coaching tips that she has for us, and as well as hear about what's going on in her life. She's had a baby recently, so we're going to get into all of that. So if you're as excited as I am, stick around. It's going to be a good one. Vegan Health and Fitness, more than just your favorite magazine. Okay, here we are. Welcome, Samantha Shorkey. So nice to have you here.
So nice to be here. Thank you.
Let's start off by talking about your background. I know that people who've been following you for a while have heard your come to vegan story, but it's a good one anyway. So even if you've heard it before, it's worth hearing again. Would you like to go ahead and share with us your story?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in a very small town called the Ottawa Valley here in Canada. And I lived in a log house on 12 acres of forest. We did not have cable TV. We had nature. And so I used to spend a lot of time outdoors, and we had deer. My mom was obsessed with feeding the deer that would come onto our property. And sometimes we would literally have like 40 or 50 deer back there. And they were kind of pets to me, and I was just so fascinated by them and thought they were such beautiful creatures, watching the baby fawns every spring. And of course, every fall would be hunting season, where deer hunting is huge out where I grew up. And what actually made me go vegetarian at 8 years old was seeing 2 deer hung up in the back of, pickup trucks, as well as the really traumatizing one was seeing 2 deer carcasses in somebody's garage when I was a young kid. And from that day forward, I just made the connection, why is it okay that we eat deer or we eat cows and pigs and chickens, but we're so sad about the deer being killed at hunting season. So thankfully, even though my mom was a country woman, like meat, potatoes, and a vegetable was our every dinner, they were supportive, my parents. And so they allowed me to do this. And my sister, who was 6 years older, also went vegetarian at the same time. And it just kind of went from there. He was vegetarian for 20 years, always the weird vegetarian kid in this hick school. I remember they would have pizza days and it was always pepperoni pizza. And I'd be, the weird kid, hey, can I eat your crust? And so it was tough growing up that way, but I held true with my ethics all the way until 2011 when I became vegan, and I learned that the dairy industry was actually even more cruel than the meat industry in some ways. And yeah, I was thankful enough to have connected with some vegans in Vancouver, which is like the vegan heaven capital of Canada. And from that point forward, I thought, yeah, it's so easy to be vegan. It's very easy to make the transition from vegetarian. And here I am now, 23 years now, plant-based,
So
13 years
young and
vegan.
lovely. That's such a great story. I love that. So how did you then get into fitness, competing and coaching? Were you the kind of kid that was this always, I know I was like this weirdo who was always concerned about health. And people were like, why are you concerned about health, little kid? That's so strange. Most kids want candy. What are you doing? But I think some of us, I don't know where it comes from. We just have an affinity for certain things like this. Were you like that too?
That was not me at all, actually. I was lived off of fries and salad for a really long time. It wasn't until I dated a personal trainer in Vancouver for 4 years who kind of introduced me to bodybuilding, and I really fell in love with it. And then he actually ended up moving to Australia, and it turned into this really toxic relationship where I had got like a full bench press, a squat rack, dumbbell setup for my tiny bachelor apartment. And we would be on the phone in this awful long distance relationship fighting. And I'd get off the phone and just bawl my eyes out and just lift the weights like a mad woman as a way to relieve my emotions and stress. And then when we finally did end the relationship, I decided, hey, well, I've got all this free time on my hands. Why don't I try doing a fitness competition and see how it goes? And because there was not much information out there, I think Robert Cheek's Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness was like the only website at the time for vegan bodybuilders. And there was not very much information for women bodybuilders, as vegans especially. And so because I had studied journalism, I decided, why don't I use my writing background and be the person who can bring information to other vegans wanting to learn about how to compete as a vegan. And I basically just documented my whole journey to do this first ever competition. And it just turned into like this adventure kind of thing where my vegan friends and I drove across British Columbia to do this bodybuilding competition, where I ended up somehow winning first place against all meat eaters in my first ever show, which doesn't usually happen. And it was an untested show. So there were girls on all kinds of performance enhancing substances. And after that, I thought, okay, maybe this is something I can actually excel at and start to show people that, hey, you can be vegan and muscular too. And then the coaching thing just kind of grew from there. I competed with the Plant Built team, who I'm sure a lot of the vegans who watch you and know you are familiar with them. And I was the only Canadian on the team back in, I guess it was 2014. And were you there, Brenda?
Yes, that's when we met you
okay.
and
Oh yes, you
photographed
did. I
you
did
for
the
the
photo shoot with you guys after.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we
And
covered the
I
whole
won my pro card there.
Yeah, we covered the event, and then we did
Right. Yes,
more
yes.
photo shoots after. We did a swimsuit issue of the magazine and featured your lovely physique. And yeah, so that was
Yes, that's
that's
right.
how long we've known each other. It's been a while.
I know, that's awesome. Yes, and that was one of the most proud moments of my life, I have to say, is being up on that stage and then not only winning for Bikini Tall, against all people who were not vegan, but then actually winning the overall title and giving me the title of the first ever vegan WNBF bikini pro. So after that happened, it definitely made a lot of people want to work with me as a coach. And I always say, like, obviously I put a lot of work into it, but I do have horseshoes up my butt to a certain extent, I think, because a year later I was speaking at an event in Vancouver, a Veg Expo, and this woman from LA came up to me and said, "Hey, I want to enter bodybuilding.com's $200,000 12-week transformation challenge. I want to go from meat eater to vegan and for this 12 weeks and see how I do." And somehow this woman beat out 345,000 people worldwide and won the whole thing. And then from that point forward, I was able to do the coaching for Just Vegans full time.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
And I also love that you had a bad relationship, and that the bad relationship was spurring you to work out so hard that by the time you broke up, you were ripped. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
totally. And I love that even just recently he reached out to me and said, "Wow, you're in fitness now, you're doing it as a career." And I could actually say, "Yes, thank you for being such a terrible boyfriend that if it weren't for," but it's true, right? Everything happens for a reason. And I do have gratitude towards him for allowing me to branch off into a passion-based business based on that terrible relationship. So
That's great. Well, what a great way of looking at life, that, even when these negative things happen, that we can find something that we learned and some way that we grew. So now you have a podcast with your sister, which I really love. It's hilarious. You and your sister are like the perfect, like, kind of opposites in some ways, the way that you bounce off of each other, that you're like the perky, happy one, and she's a little bit cranky sometimes, and you're the one that's so totally into fitness, and she's the soccer mom, and you guys have like such a great rapport with one another. And I love that as sisters, we can like say things to each other that we wouldn't let anybody else get away with saying. And we can give each other a hard time and be a little nasty now and then and laugh about it and then make up later. So tell us about, like, how is it having this relationship on air, that you don't sugarcoat it, it's real and honest. And what made you start it, and what's it like doing it together?
So I love the podcast. I think, again, having the journalism background has been so helpful because it's another platform for me to research and get to explain to people and share knowledge and my findings with our listeners. And basically, I always heard the best way to learn is to teach. And that's what made me start the podcast. Was I was really into self-help books and health books and fitness stuff. And I thought, okay, well, why don't I pick very specific topics that I want to learn about and then share it with the audience, as I call them. But I also knew that it would be tough for me to not only be motivated to keep putting out these episodes, but it might be boring if I'm just droning on and on myself about a topic. And I thought, okay, well, my sister lives close by. She's funny. She's, kind of relatable to the average person, whereas I think you can relate as a health and fitness person. Sometimes we talk and it goes right over people's heads because it's just so foreign, things that are so common to us. And so it was nice to have that dynamic for the people who were somewhere around the middle, right? But people absolutely took to my sister's contributions, which I was so worried they wouldn't, but they really enjoy that she's such a cynical smartass. And whereas exactly, I'm very positive, spiritual, hippie, and she's so not any of those things. And it's so fun, and I absolutely love the podcast and hope that we can do it forever.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that it's really great to see, again, like I said, sisters interacting with one another. I think you're such a great role model for female empowerment in so many ways. I mean, just being a badass bodybuilder, and you have such an independent, strong spirit about yourself also. And I love that. And you have your own business as an entrepreneur. And now here, when you take on this podcast, for you to do it as sisters, I just feel like it just adds that much more to your cred as being like this great role model for women, and seeing how we can interact with one another and help one another and support one another and be sisters to one another. Do you have anything you want to add about like your feelings about like being this role model?
I mean, I don't ever think of myself as being a role model. So it's very touching every time I get to hear my clients say just how much I've changed their lives, or just hearing feedback from the podcast listeners about how much they got out of an episode, sort of thing. But yeah, of course, that makes me love my job. And I think when you get that kind of feedback and you receive it and you truly believe it and take it in, it makes you such a force to be reckoned with, and it just gives me that drive that I need to really do the best job I can for my clients and keep pumping out content, even though it's slower than I would like to admit since having a son. But yeah, it really means the world to me, and I always, when clients have nice things, and you as well, I receive that. Thank you so much, Brenda. I look up to you so much as well, and I really appreciate that and all that you do for the vegan movement as well, and the vegan health nerds out there.
Yes, peace to the vegan health nerds. We love them. So speaking of your lovely son, the gorgeous young man in your life that you just mentioned, and speaking of family, let's talk about this. So you're a recent mom and your physique is already back to, I would say, competition shape. How long did it take you to get back? And could you have any tips that you would like to share on how you were able to do that?
Yeah, so I think the first big tip is to be easy on yourself and be realistic about what is possible. I always tell, and it's funny, I have more mom clients now than I ever have. And I have so many women say, oh, now you've had a child, now I'll work with you because you get it. And it's so true, right? It's such a huge part of your life that my training has changed so much now that I've had my son, because I just can't dedicate the amount of time that I was before to working out and prepping my meals, because now you're prepping food for a toddler as well. But yeah, I basically took a year, I would say a full year, before I really felt like I was fit again. And for that first year, I really just tried to be easy on myself. And how it helped me the most, I think, was every day before I lay my head down on the pillow and go to sleep, I had to move my body in some way. And sometimes it was literally doing 20 push-ups on my bedroom floor. And thankfully I have like a squat rack and a pull-up tower in my bedroom. So I do, 10 pull-ups and 20 air squats. And it would be the saddest workout, to compared to what I normally do, but it was something. And that was enough to just keep me kind of focused and knowing that I'm still that person who I was before I had my child. And just getting really creative, going to the park with him every day I could. And he'd be playing in the sandbox with the trucks, and I'd be over at the bars doing, inverted rows and dips and all kinds of things. And just, really trying to make movement a part of my everyday life, and being kind and gentle with myself that I'm not able to do what I once was, but I will again. And I have to trust that. And then of course, eating, right? Eating is such a huge part of it. I hate when I hear these mothers say, oh, I'm eating for two now, because it's really like an extra 300 to 500 calories you're supposed to be eating on a daily basis. We're not talking, thousands extra calories or hogging back on all the bad foods. And a lot of women gravitate towards that as an excuse. Oh, I'm supposed to put on weight. Well, no, I'm thankful that I only put on the 30 pounds recommended. And so it did only take me a year to get back to my old self. But I'm also a fitness professional who was very fit going into my pregnancy. So I think, women just have such unrealistic expectations of, 2 weeks are going to pass and they're going to have six-pack abs again. And it's just not the reality. And you just do what you can every day, everything possible, keep moving forward, not backward, and just trust that your body is an amazing thing and it will adapt and you will get there eventually. And with a couple maybe scars along the way, I can't say my abs look as good as they did before, but I also knew that by doing a lot of weighted ab exercises, I could create more muscle underneath the stretched skin and my C-section scar in order to look fit, right? Like there's nothing you can do about stretched skin, but the more muscle you have underneath there, the better it's going to look.
Mhm. And so did you work out during your pregnancy as well?
Oh yes, absolutely. I literally was in the gym the night before I had my C-section.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and of course it's adjusted workouts. I wasn't my strength was terrible, you know. I could barely breathe when in my third trimester when you've got this huge belly, but it was hilarious. I remember doing squats and having men run over and say, "That's, you shouldn't be doing that." I was 7.5 months pregnant, and it's, excuse me, first of all, you're a man. I don't think you really have an opinion on this, but this is what I've always done. Why would I change, And it was great. I had a very healthy pregnancy, fully vegan, obviously, and I have an amazing, healthy little vegan boy. So I know I didn't do anything wrong, and I encourage all pregnant women to, even if you've got morning sickness, go for a walk, do something, pick up a pair of dumbbells and just do a light full body pump up, but don't get into that habit of, oh, I'll just stop or I'll get to it eventually, because it'll only get worse and harder to do at that point.
Before we move on, I just realized I don't think we mentioned that the name of your podcast is Jacked on the Beanstalk, and that's also the name of your website, and that's your brand. So if anybody's looking for all things wonderful Samantha Shorkey, you want to look for Jacked on the Beanstalk. But getting back to what we were just talking about with the pregnancy and the working out, I was thinking about how many women suffer with postpartum depression, and I know that you have. I don't know, you were mentioning something the other day about being so happy actually with you because you have this beautiful child. And I'm wondering because, when you exercise, you release endorphins. It really does have a huge effect on, I mean, I always say I exercise more for how it makes me feel than for anything aesthetic. Would you like to speak a little bit about how after you had your baby, what your outlook was and how you felt and how working out maybe might have helped your state of mind?
Well, yes, and absolutely. I always say the gym is my meditation. Before I had my son, and I know you're big into meditation. I had my own little meditation room. I was big into it, and affirmations and the sage burning and all those things. But let's be honest, since having a child, being a self-employed single mom, it's not very doable for me to do that very often. And that's what the gym is for me, because I go in there, I'm very focused, I've got my music on, and just lifting weights is such, a meditation in itself, where you can't really concentrate on anything else but the movement of your body and your muscles working together to perform that movement, and your breath, right? Which is what is a huge part of meditation is. And I'm so grateful that I didn't suffer from any kind of postpartum depression after having my son, because I know women who have, and it's absolutely horrible. And I can't even imagine. I will say it was incredibly overwhelming suddenly, leaving the hospital and being handed this tiny human with no manual. And you're thinking, what the hell am I doing with this thing? And figuring it out. And it's funny with the working out late at night. I mean, any new mom can agree that we're all exhausted and sleep deprived, that you should be able to fall asleep pretty easily once that head hits the pillow, regardless of what time that workout is. And for me, that was just something that was very important to me. If it's important to you, you'll find the time. If not, you'll find an excuse. And that is so relevant no matter what you have going on. Let's face it, we're all busy. We can all list a million excuses why we don't work out. But for people like us, we feel worse when we don't work out. So of course, we're going to make time for that every day.
Awesome. Well, like I said, you're a great role model. And how has it been, raising your son vegan, or has there any weird things come up where your kid is going to any events? I don't know. How old is he?
He will be 4 next month, actually. By the way, I'm really wanting to pet your dog. That looks so relaxing right now, and he's so chill.
Buttercup is a little cuddle muffin.
I like his little sweater too.
My child. Yeah. So have you had any situations where there's been like any birthday parties or things like that you've had to deal with? And how do you navigate that raising your son vegan?
Yeah, so I've actually talked to a lot of my vegan mom friends about this, and it is tough. I'm not going to lie, because yes, obviously when he's in my house, he's vegan. His dad is vegetarian. We're not together, but I know his dad is respectful of the vegan diet for the most part, as well as, you know, his grandparents, my parents, when we go to their house, you know, my mom always makes her baked beans and the favorites she knows that he'll eat. When it comes to birthday parties, I do admit my biggest fear is that Harry, my son, will relate being vegan to missing out. And so I do admit that if we go to a birthday party and there are cupcakes there, I will allow him to eat one because I don't ever want him to think, oh, I'm vegan, I can't have a cupcake like the rest of the kids, and then think veganism is a bad thing. And I know a lot of vegan parents will bring their own vegan treats and stuff. And I think once he's older to understand why he can't eat the cupcake, then he'll be fine with that. I'll let him pick out his own little vegan treat to bring, that sort of thing. But at this point, because he is so little and he does understand that we don't eat animals, and it's really sweet. Every time we go to the grocery store, he asks if we can go past the live lobsters, and we'll sit there and we'll watch them, and he'll say, that's really sad that people have to eat those, and that their claws are tied up, and they're not very happy and they're going to die. And I love it. I love listening to him make those connections that I think any child would if their parents weren't drilling it down their brains that, oh no, this is normal, because any child can see that it is cruel, right? And so I love that at such a young age, he's finally making the connection. One of his favorite books is called V is for Vegan, the ABCs of being kind. And it's really cute to watch him grow as a little vegan.
Ah, that's such a sweet story. I know I have the same thing when I go to the grocery stores that have lobsters in them. I was up in New England in the beginning of 2021. We don't have that in California so much, but I noticed in the grocery stores had the lobsters in there, and I was going and I was like, how much are the lobsters? And I was trying to figure in my head, how fast can I drive to the ocean and set them free?
Oh, I love that.
Place where I saw the closest place to drop it off, there was an awful lot of lobster boats and traps around, and I was thinking, first of all, I don't know if they would make it, and then when I put them in the water, they might go right into a trap again because the traps were right there. It just, the whole thing was just like, and it would, of course, it would have cost hundreds of dollars because there was quite a few lobster, and you know. Anyway, just that it's heartbreaking, you know, to witness it. I think that that's one of the things that we have to deal with in this life as vegans, is bearing witness to suffering that happens that we can't do anything about. And you know, all that we can do is let it give us more resolve to just do what we can where we can, and in these other situations where we can't, try to somehow make peace with it. You know, send love to the lobsters. I don't know, say a prayer for them.
Oh, that's a good idea. I should start suggesting that. Yeah, I like that. And even like, I don't know about you, but I will never call it meat. For me, it's always dead animal. And so Harry will say the same thing. Look at all these dead animals, mommy. And I love when he says it loud enough for other people to hear, you know, because it's so sad that there's a reason why we have a softer sounding name for it, because it makes you feel barbaric to actually say, oh yes, I'm eating a dead animal. And so I think it's so important that he understands that from a young age. And you know, we don't call it poultry, it's chicken. We don't call it beef, it's a dead cow, right? So yeah, I don't know if I'm doing the right things as a vegan mom and to help him along his vegan journey. I mean, he could be a dead animal eater when he's a teenager, I don't know, but I just do what I think is best for him and hope that he understands and thrives as a vegan like I do, and it'll just stick with him.
No, it sounds to me like you're doing all the right things, and I'm sure he'll stick with it. I can't wait to follow up and have him on this podcast in a few years and see how he's doing. I'm sure he's going to be the super muscular little kid with like an outgoing personality like you, and he's going to be this little star.
Well, so he's always asking, mommy, can I come to the gym with you? And I'm like, oh, buddy, soon. One day, I promise I will bring you to the gym. And yeah, he's always lifting up my little light hand dumbbells and, mommy, look how strong I am. So yeah, he's a definite meatless meathead in training for sure.
That's awesome. I love that you call yourself a vegan hippie meathead. Yeah. Well, so does that I mean, I get the vegan hippie part because I'm totally there with you. I feel like the meathead is just the gym rat kind of eating like a bodybuilder kind of thing, but doing it veganized. Is that what it means to you?
Well, exactly. I am a meathead. Let's be honest. I live at the gym. I live in gym clothes. I'm attracted to big, muscly meathead guys. Yeah, it's a big part of my life. And even the way I eat is very different from a lot of vegans who are more, and I know you are more whole food, plant-based, heavy on the raw foods. And I like all those things too, but I definitely gravitate towards the traditional meathead diet, but a veganized version of it. And then the vegan hippie part, I think, is like more the spiritual, holistic aspect of it. Like so many bodybuilding coaches are all about taking steroids and pumping their clients full of as many supplements as possible. And don't get me wrong, we talked about this before. I do like some supplements, but I definitely have a more holistic approach towards my clients and not just, let's do whatever possible, throw them on a crash diet. They want to lose, but no, it should be about sustainability and then being in their corner with them and dealing with the mental stuff and the emotional ties to food and cravings and things like that a lot of bodybuilding coaches don't deal with. And then these clients do a show and then they're basically like, hey, bye, good luck. And then they gain all this weight back and they're feeling like a lost puppy. What do I do now that the show is over? And so I think it's important to have a coach who cares about your mental health as much as your physical appearance.
Absolutely. And I know meathead sometimes is used as a derogatory term to connote someone who's not as intelligent. Well, you're definitely not that kind of meathead.
It's so funny you say that because I call guys I know all the time a meathead, and I don't mean it as an insult. They get so offended by it, thinking, I guess they're picturing like that moose from Archie or like the big like oh kind of guys. And no, I am a meathead fully. I'm not insulted by it. Even one of my new shirts I'm making, I'm doing now vegan meathead shirts, and it's a broccoli flexing with and says meatless meathead on it. So they'll be available for purchase soon. I'll have to send you one, Brenda.
Yeah, you have a lot of cool stuff on your website. So yeah, if you're watching this and you're looking for some good vegan merchandise, definitely check out Jack Down the Beanstalk and look at the merchandise section.
Thank you.
So let's talk about a little bit more about your physique. And we're gonna in a minute here, you promised me that we're gonna do a little booty workout together. So I'm really looking forward to that because of course you have the best booty in the world. And I love that on the beginning of your podcast, you even have this humorous take on it. You have a world-class ass. And it's so true. So I'm looking forward to like seeing some of the tips on, and I know form is very important to you. So
as it should be to anyone, Brenda.
Yes. And so we'll definitely hit on that hard today with whatever it is that you want to demonstrate. So are you ready to do that? Do you want to?
Yeah, are we there? All right. Yes.
Do you have anything
I'm always ready for a butt workout.
Do you want to preface it with any explanations of what we're going to be doing? And
yeah, so I actually haven't planned this at all. I do enough virtual and in-person sessions. I'm just gonna whatever I feel like. But I will say, as you mentioned, the form is so important. But what also is so important, especially when it comes to the glutes, because so many people are so out of touch with their glute activation, like they don't even know how to fire up those muscles because they're so dependent on their quads, aka the front of the thighs, doing most of the work for their legs. So it's things like a lot of people don't realize when they're doing squats, you have to shift the weight to your heel so that you're activating the back of the leg. And even before you do those big movements like squats, you want to do some glute activation exercises. So I think what we should do, because there probably are a lot of people who follow you and do workouts, they already know a good glute workout, but some good activation exercises you can do before the glute day or the leg day. And then also I'll show you a couple things how you can change up the tempo of your workout to make those muscles feel them even more, because like I'll show you there's certain moves you can do that you can do them and not even feel it. As soon as you slow it down and you really focus on squeezing the muscle, then suddenly it becomes a lot more intense and you're really going to feel that muscle working. So let's get to it. I think we're just doing body weight, right? Is that
yeah?
anyone can do?
I can grab some dumbbells if you want me to, or we can just do body weight. It's up to you.
Well, I'm thinking, look, we can even just do the floor right here. If you it
Okay.
doesn't have to move our laptops and
All
cameras.
right. I'm gonna set my puppy down and
Okay.
move my chair.
Okay. So I would say, and again, this is some move everyone's going to be like, what? Everyone knows a hip thrust, but there are so many ways, like I'm talking about the time under tension and slowing things down and really controlling, I can't really see my face, really controlling the movement so that you're really, really firing up those glutes. So a typical hip thrust, I'll see girls doing this all the time, especially if they're doing a cardio class, is, hip thrust. Okay, here we go. I'm doing a hip thrust. But how we can kind of make this a lot more intense is you get into that hip thrust position, but shimmy your shoulders down towards your heels so that you can really push those hips as high to the ceiling as possible, okay? And you really want to make sure you're squeezing your glutes the whole way, as though, I always say, pretend you're crushing a walnut between those cheeks the whole time, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to lift those hips way up, squeeze, hold for 2 full seconds, keep squeezing, slowly, 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 slowly lower the hips, and then slowly, slowly, still squeezing that walnut, still crushing that walnut between those cheeks, and then hold, squeeze at the top. 1, 2, slowly bring it down. And if you do about 20 of those nice and slow and really making sure those shoulders are shimmied down so that that thrust is really, really high, squeezing, 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 super slow, and then super slow hold at the top. 1, 2, slowly, 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 slowly. And do you feel how much more effective that is when you're going that slow and really squeezing your butt?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first really good way to activate. And I would do like a good 20 to 30 of those. Okay, so that's your hip thrust, slow and controlled. And then the same thing with like a fire hydrant move, right? Where you're in tabletop position, we call this, on all fours. You really want to make sure that you're not arching your back, you're not rounding your back too much, you're just nice and squared off, right? Just like a table. And the fire hydrant, you're basically just like a dog peeing, right? You're bringing that leg up. But what most people do is they kind of just half-ass it, right? It's like this. Well, no, we want to do that slow and controlled once again and really make sure that we're bringing that knee so it's aligned with our butt. You always want to think of bodybuilding as very stiff lines, very stiff, straight lines. It's the complete opposite of yoga where you're flowing, right? And it's all flowy and feminine. Like, no, bodybuilding, super masculine and stiff, but really slow and controlled. So bring it up, squeeze, and then slowly bring it down. Nice and tight, still squeezing that glute. Nice and down. And this is a great one too for glute activation because it's a unilateral movement. So not only are we using one leg at a time, so it's really forcing that one leg to do all the work, but we're also hitting the other plane of motion, right? Which would be the side to side plane as opposed to just the front and back. Okay, I'm going to take my sweater off. Now I'm going to do another variation of that fire hydrant that really advances this move, okay? So what you would do is you would bring the fire hydrant again out and then give me another pulse at the top and then stop again right at that 90-degree angle again and then all the way down. Nice and slow and controlled. Bring it out and then pulse up to the top and then back down right there and then all the way down. So nice and slow, pulse, back down, keeping that core tight. You always want to make sure the core stays tight to protect the lower back. Pulse. Good. And then make sure you stop it there. So all of this stopping, again, right? It's the time under tension. It's so much harder because you're controlling it and you're squeezing that muscle. Whoa, pulse it up, back down, and all the way. Now, how's that feel for you, Brenda?
It feels good. My
Right?
camera's up so high, I don't know what the angle is looking like for my leg.
And even just by doing those 2 exercises before you go into a leg day, your glutes should be fired up. Like that one side we just worked, I bet your butt cheek is feeling that, right?
Yeah, I do that kind of thing a lot, so I
Good.
might be not burning as much as I would if I wasn't used to doing it all the time, but yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
One
and
of
you
my
can do
favorite
that
butt
pulse
work.
with a lot of
And
stuff.
it does work very well with yoga, actually, because you know when you're in that position, you're already kind of ready to do cat-cow. So yeah.
Totally. And I was going to say another good one too, to work that other plane of motion, the front and back, and still do that pulse to really like make that butt burn, is if you can do like a donkey kick, right? Where you're kicking your leg straight back. And then once you stop it at the normal position, do the same thing. Pulse at the top, squeezing that glute. So bringing it 90-degree angles always, whoa, pulse it, stop again, and then all the way back. So now I just moved it to straight back, donkey kick style.
Oh, straight back.
Do those. Yeah, but still give me the pulse at the top, right? So bring it to regular 90 degrees, boom, pulse it, kick that heel to the ceiling, and then bring it back to down here. Yep, and then slow and controlled all the way down. So just by changing the tempo, you can see how much more effective it is.
Yeah.
Really activating that
That
glute,
extra
really
little
controlling
push at the top, you definitely feel the glute squeeze a lot harder.
Totally.
It adds a lot.
Yeah, and then I would even do another good one is if you're lying down on your stomach and then lifting your legs up. And these are all things that you could even just make a good butt workout at home with all of these exercises, and you could advance on them very easily by using bands. Like I can demonstrate. Yeah, so you do these while I show everyone some bands that and ankle weights that could advance. So keeping your legs straight, okay, and then just lifting those legs off the floor as much as possible and still controlling it. So try not to pulse this one, just nice and slow and controlled. Slowly up, squeeze, still crushing that walnut between those cheeks, Brenda.
Feeling this one, yeah, this is a good one.
And what I get my virtual clients to do where they have limited equipment is we'll advance on all those moves by incorporating these hip circle bands, which is like the thick fabric ones you can get on Amazon for like no money at all. And then you can also incorporate like ankle weights. So these ones are 5 pounds, these ones are 10 pounds. And to do those fire hydrants and the donkey kicks, adding some resistance to your leg, that's a killer butt workout for sure.
Awesome.
I mean, we can keep going if you want more exercises.
Yeah, maybe like 1 or 2 more.
Okay, cool. So maybe a good one, we'll get off the floor. So this would be one, wouldn't be so much glute activation, but a really good, they're called seesaw lunges. So I'm sure everybody is familiar with the typical lunge. You can either do like a forward lunge this way, or you can do a reverse lunge this way. These are seesaw lunges. So you're doing forward lunge, reverse lunge. So it's a lot of lunging in one move, but they're really effective. So what you basically do, and as I tell all my clients, no matter what exercise you're doing, the foundational principles of body mechanics, you always have to have your shoulders back, your chest up, your core tight as though somebody's about to punch you in the gut, and then keeping the weight in your heels to really activate those glutes and hamstrings. So for the seesaw lunge, shoulders back, chest up, core tight, weight in the heels. Take a step forward. Watch that knee doesn't jut past your toe into a forward lunge, okay? And then step it back, same leg, into a reverse lunge. I know it's kind of hard to see. It takes up a lot of space, this movement. Yeah, there you go. Good. Try to get that leg even farther back and watch that knee coming past that toe, Brenda.
Can we put hands on the hips?
Yep, good. Perfect. Yeah, really good for loosening up the hips. Good. And you're going to do one leg at a time. By 20 of these, your leg's going to be on fire.
I feel it.
Butt.
I don't know what number we're on.
I'd say only like 5. And then really making sure that that stationary leg, that weight is staying in that heel to really get that butt fired up and keeping that core tight. If your core is tight, it protects your lower back. So super important because so many people have lower back issues, and it's always because they have weak core or weak glutes or both, which is also common.
Okay. Well, so the one leg is all fired up. Now I feel like I have to do the other one.
Okay, we can finish the other one.
Whoa.
And you want to make sure you take a really wide step, because the wider your step, your knee is going to be protected. Really try to make sure. Okay, let me, right? It's a good one.
That was a good one.
You can do, and anywhere you can do it anywhere, right?
Yes. So that's good for like when you're traveling and you can't get to a gym, you can do that in a hotel.
Yep. And bands are a great thing to bring too. Like I always say, people, like there are so many different bands you can get off of Amazon. They've got like the thin elastic booty bands, which again are like $10 for a set of 5. You've got the thicker ones, which are great for a lot of butt exercises, and they take up no space at all in your luggage. They weigh nothing, and you can do like a lot of upper body stuff with this little band too. So definitely lots of good travel workouts out there if you don't want to use it as an excuse that, oh, I travel for work, so I can't work out. Yeah, you can.
So if you wanted to use bands when doing those moves, would you just put the bands kind of around your thighs and it would just make the movements have more resistance?
Yeah, so there's tons of stuff we can do with them. Like these little ones here, I really like for doing lateral squat steps. So you would like put it around your ankles and you would come into like, again, working the both planes of motions, right? People do not work this side to side plane nearly enough. It's all about this way, right? And so it's a good way to take a step out, come down into a squat, back to center, step out, down into a squat, right? So it's like a lateral, adding lateral resistance. And then ones that I love, the thicker ones for, is doing like abduction. So you can put it around your thighs and like sit on the edge of a chair and just push it out to the side. And that's really going to fire up your abductors, your outer glute muscles. And be really good for your pelvic floor. In fact, they prescribe this one to a lot of women who've just had babies for strengthening their pelvic floor muscles, and really good for your glutes.
Awesome. Well, that was great. Thank you so much. My heart rate is up. I felt that. I'm sure it will register on my wearable.
Good.
Yay. So thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed talking to you today. And I loved the bonus that we got a little free sample of what you can get with coaching with Sam Shorkey. And so I just want to encourage people, if they're interested in more of that.
Jacked on the Beanstalk style.
Vegan chicks with big muscles, yeah.
Right.
So just, yeah, I definitely want to encourage you to reach out to Sam and visit her website, watch her podcast, and always
listen to my podcast. I'm not cool enough to have it as a YouTube style yet. I should, but it's hard enough to get out enough audio only episodes.
Well, I love the images that you put out when you look at the podcast episodes on your website, and you have a little vlog where you talk about them. So I want to encourage people to go and look at that too, because you and your sister look like you have a lot of fun. You have great senses of humor, and it makes it fun for the viewer as well.
And
So
we have a lot of sound bites. Sarah does all the editing, so I never know what it sounds like until I post it. And it's hilarious because I notice she makes fun of me all the time by throwing in all these like little sound bites and sound clips of smart ass things. So that's always a fun part of the podcast people seem to enjoy too.
that is funny, and it's interesting to know that she's the one doing that. That actually adds to my enjoyment of it even more, knowing that.
Mine too.
Okay, well, thank you again so much for being my guest. And please, all of our love to little Harry, and keep up the good work, everything that you're doing. And we'll see you again sometime in the future.
Thank you so much, Brenda. All the best to you too. And I look forward to connecting with your audience over in the podcast, blog, social media world. So thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, get moving, people.
Thank you. And for people who are watching, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and click that like button if you have forgotten to do so thus far before we get too late in the video. But we're going to go ahead and sign off now. We're going to thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that yet also. And keep on watching. There'll be more good things to come. And take care. Health and happiness, everyone.
Bye.